Maggie Thompson had 3 great loves in her life: her grandkids, her Sunday bingo, and a very strong cup of Irish coffee that could probably fuel a rocket to Mars. What she didn't love, however, was technology. She still called her iPad the big phone, and every time a pop-up ad appeared, she was convinced the CIA was trying to recruit her. So, when her grandson Kyle set up a cute little investment app for her as a Christmas gift 2 years ago, she assumed it was some silly game. She remembered him saying something about crypto and Bitcoin and buy the dip, but Maggie only half listened because the turkey had been dry and she was still mad about it. Turns out, Maggie had accidentally become a crypto queen. Not that she noticed. For 2 years, her big phone sat in the kitchen drawer next to rubber bands and expired coupons, quietly accumulating a small fortune that would soon make her the wealthiest woman in the sleepy town of Willow Creek. And it all started, as these things often do, on a perfectly ordinary Tuesday morning. Maggie shuffled into her kitchen wearing her faded pink robe, her curly gray hair sticking out like a science experiment gone wrong. She poured herself coffee, added a splash, well, maybe 2 splashes, of whiskey, and sat down with her usual breakfast, a buttered English muffin and a crossword puzzle. She opened her iPad because she wanted to check the weather. Instead, she saw a notification with a number so big it looked fake. Congratulations! Your portfolio balance $4,780,000. Maggie blinked. Then she blinked again. She tilted her head. Kyle must have signed me up for some scam, she muttered, adjusting her glasses. $4 million? Sure, and I'm dating George Clooney. But when she called Kyle, things got interesting. Kyle, sweetheart, Maggie said when he picked up, my big phone says I have, she squinted at the screen. $4.7 million. Did I get hacked? There was a pause on the other end, followed by an ear-piercing scream that could have shattered glass. Graham, you did it. Holy, you're rich. Kyle shouted, his voice full of both disbelief and glee. Oh my god, you bought Dogecoin when it was, like, nothing. And you held it. You diamond-handed it, Graham. I what-handed it? Diamond hands, Graham. It means you didn't sell when it went up and down. You're a legend. Maggie took a sip of her Irish coffee, calm as ever. So, is this good money? Like, I can buy new slippers money, or, don't tell your grandfather, but I just bought a yacht money. Graham, you're a millionaire. Multiple millions. Kyle broke off, hyperventilating. Well, Maggie said, standing up and smoothing her robe, I suppose it's time I retire from bingo. By Friday, Willow Creek had no idea what hit it. Maggie rolled up to the First National Bank in a borrowed golf cart, because her Buick had died years ago, and asked, very politely, to speak to the manager of millions. By Monday, she'd accidentally hired a financial advisor named Rick who wore too much cologne and called her Queen. By Wednesday, she was on the phone with a realtor about something tasteful but with a pool, and by the weekend, she'd made her first big purchase, a gold-plated bingo dabber. But money, as Maggie quickly discovered, came with problems. Her daughter Brenda suddenly started dropping by unannounced, bringing casseroles and unsolicited advice. Mom, maybe you should consider a financial guardian, Brenda suggested, eyeing Maggie's new silk scarf. Someone to help you, not do anything crazy. I raised you, Brenda, Maggie said, deadpan. You think I can't handle a little spending spree? Then there was Carol, her nosy neighbor, who started asking suspiciously friendly questions like, so, Mag, have you, considered investing in my nephew's goat yoga business? But the biggest problem of all was Maggie's oldest friend, Doris. Doris had been Maggie's partner in crime for decades, bingo nights, church bake-offs, the occasional wine-fueled prank. But suddenly, Doris was acting weird. Weird like accidentally showing up everywhere Maggie went. Weird like suggesting they go into business together. Weird like eyeing Maggie's fancy new purse and saying, money changes people, Mags. It made Maggie suspicious. And Maggie, when suspicious, was a force of nature. The turning point came during Sunday bingo. Maggie showed up to the community center in a brand new floral dress, her silver hair freshly curled, smelling like the fancy perfume she'd splurged on. She sat in her usual spot, dabber in hand, and waited for the game to begin. Doris plopped down beside her with a wide, fake smile. Hey, bestie, Doris said, her tone sweet enough to give someone a cavity. So, funny thing? My cousin's opening a cafe/vape shop. Super trendy. We're looking for investors. Maggie didn't even look up from her card. Doris, darling, she said, if I wanted to light my money on fire, I'd just hire a clown. The other bingo ladies gasped. What Maggie didn't realize, at least, not yet, was that Doris wasn't just being nosy. She was plotting something. Something big. Because in a small town, nothing stays secret for long. And when people found out that Maggie Thompson, the 72-year-old retired librarian, was sitting on millions, everyone wanted a piece of the pie. And Doris? Doris wanted the whole damn bakery. If Willow Creek had a gossip economy, Sunday morning at Grace's Diner would have been its Wall Street. And that particular Sunday, the ticker was going wild. Everyone, from the mayor to the guy who'd been living in a van behind the bowling alley, knew about Maggie Thompson's millions. By noon, she had unofficially been promoted from Sweet Bingo Grandma to Queen of Willow Creek. Maggie, for her part, wasn't even fazed. She strolled into Grace's wearing oversized sunglasses and a scarf that looked suspiciously like it had come from Paris, though she'd actually ordered it off the internet because it was on sale and free shipping. "Morning, Grace," Maggie said, sliding into her usual booth. "Black coffee, extra strong, and one of those cinnamon rolls. The one that looks like it could kill me." Grace, a woman who had been caffeinated since 1983, slapped the order pad shut. "On the house, honey," she said. "Our very own millionaire shouldn't have to pay for carbs." Maggie grinned. "If my money can't buy me a death-by-sugar breakfast, what's the point of it?" Across the diner, Doris sat in a corner booth, stirring her tea so aggressively that anyone watching might have assumed she was trying to create a tornado. She didn't like being upstaged. For years, Doris had been the unofficial queen bee, the loudest voice at bingo, the organizer of the annual pie competition, the woman everyone came to for advice about serious matters like which store had the best bulk discount on denture cream. But now? Now Maggie was the star. "Oh, just you wait, Margaret Thompson," Doris muttered under her breath, her perfectly painted lips curling into a smile that could curdle milk. "You won't be queen for long." By that afternoon, Maggie started noticing strange things. First, her mailbox was full of letters, not the usual bills and sweepstakes offers, but handwritten notes. Some begged for help. Asterisk, "Dear Mrs. Thompson, my dog needs surgery. Could you spare a few dollars?" Asterisk, "Dear Maggie, the church roof is leaking again. Please, think of the congregation." Some were weirder. Asterisk, "Would you fund my interpretive dance company? We perform exclusively in abandoned warehouses." And one simply said, asterisk, "You owe me $20 from 1973. With interest." Then, her landline, yes, she still had one, started ringing nonstop. People pitching businesses, asking for donations, or trying to sell her everything from alpacas to Miracle Wrinkle Cream. Even Pastor Jim dropped by, conveniently, just in the neighborhood, to remind her that charity is the Lord's work. By Thursday, Maggie had had enough. "This is getting ridiculous," she told Kyle over the phone. "I can't even buy prune juice without someone asking me to invest in a bowling alley/nightclub idea." Kyle, ever the tech-savvy grandson, had a solution. "Graham, you need a team. Like, a squad. You know, people who handle stuff so you don't have to." "A squad?" Maggie raised an eyebrow. "What am I, Beyoncé?" "Yes," Kyle said seriously. "Exactly like Beyoncé. You need an assistant. A driver. Maybe even a bodyguard. Someone to keep the crazies away." Maggie mulled it over. The idea of having an assistant did sound appealing. Someone to pick up her dry cleaning, fetch her coffee, and shoo away nosy neighbors. "Fine," she said. "But no one in this town. I don't trust anyone here. Not after Doris started lurking around my garden like a raccoon." Meanwhile, Doris was cooking up a plan. She'd enlisted her nephew Chad, who had 2 failed pyramid schemes under his belt and more confidence than sense. Together, they devised Operation Friendship, which, despite the name, involved very little friendship. "Here's the deal, Aunt D," Chad said, spreading out a poorly drawn diagram on Doris's kitchen table. "We're gonna make her think we're helping her manage her money. Then, bam, we siphon a little off the top. Like, not enough for her to notice, but enough for us to, you know, buy matching jet skis." "Jet skis are tacky," Doris sniffed. "I want a condo in Florida. With a pool. And a cabana boy named Enrique." Chad nodded. "Sure. Whatever. The point is, we play it cool. Earn her trust. Then we take our cut." Doris smirked. "Margaret Thompson won't know what hit her." The following Saturday, Maggie received an invitation to tea at Doris's house. The note was written in Doris's signature loopy cursive and smelled faintly of lavender, and, Maggie suspected, desperation. "Tea, huh?" Maggie muttered, tossing the note onto the counter. "Wonder what she's plotting now." Kyle, who was visiting for the weekend, leaned against the counter. "Graham, don't go. She's shady. She's like a villain from one of those reality TV shows where people flip tables." "Oh, relax," Maggie said with a grin. "I can handle Doris. I've been handling Doris since high school. She once tried to steal my prom date, you know." Ended up with the bus driver instead. Kyle blinked. Wow. Exactly, Maggie said. This isn't my first rodeo. Tea with Doris was surprisingly civil at first. They sat in Doris's overly perfumed living room, sipping Earl Grey and nibbling on cucumber sandwiches. Doris made small talk, complimented Maggie's new scarf, and even apologized, sort of, for being a little frosty lately. But then came the pitch. Maggie, darling, Doris said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness, I've been thinking. With your new financial situation, you really need someone you can trust to help you. Someone who understands this town, who has your best interests at heart. Maggie set her teacup down slowly. And let me guess, she said. That someone is you. Doris smiled. Why, yes. Who better than your oldest friend? Together, we could make sure your money works for you. Investments, donations, a legacy fund for the community, oh, the possibilities. Maggie leaned back, a sly grin on her face. That's sweet, Doris. Really. But you see, I already have someone handling that. His name is Rick. Smells like a car dealership. You'd love him. Doris's smile faltered. Just a little. What neither of them realized was that their polite little tea party had just declared an all-out war. Doris wasn't about to let a whiff of defeat stop her. She had a plan B. And this one? It was going to be messy. The sirens weren't for her. That was the first relief Maggie felt that morning. But it was short-lived. Because as she sat in her recliner, sipping her overly sweet tea, and scrolling through her now very busy encrypted messaging app, she realized something. The empire she'd built from her cozy floral living room throne was slipping. The shark was coming. And the shark didn't negotiate. Maggie McAllister hadn't meant to create a crypto empire when this all started. She only wanted a bit of extra cash to pay off the Home Shopping Network credit card. But the trades kept winning, the followers kept growing, and suddenly her tips weren't just about coins, they were about power. The shark, real name Mason Vaughn, a former Wall Street golden boy turned crypto predator, had sniffed her out. He'd sent her a DM that was polite but carried the subtle chill of a lone shark smiling with a baseball bat behind his back. And now her whole neighborhood was buzzing, because the shark didn't just send DMs. He sent men in black SUVs, the kind that idled outside houses until the curtains trembled. Her grandson, Tyler, arrived mid-panic. Grandma, he hissed, slamming the front door shut like he was in some kind of spy thriller. You need to stop trading. Now. Like, right now. Mason Vaughn? Do you even know who he is? Yes, Maggie said, calm as ever, because she'd just pulled a pan of oatmeal cookies out of the oven. He's a very rude man who thinks I'll sell my people out for pennies. Grandma, Tyler tried again, running a hand through his hair, he's not rude. He's dangerous. He's got, connections. Well, she said, setting the cookies to cool, I've got connections too. People depend on me. You think I'm going to just fold because some Wall Street dropout thinks he's the king of coins? Tyler gaped. Yes. That's exactly what you're going to do. You're going to cash out and walk away before someone winds up on a milk carton. Oh, hush, Maggie said. Have a cookie. What Maggie didn't tell Tyler, what she hadn't told anyone, was that she had already been planning her next move. She knew what the shark wanted, her algorithm. The little spreadsheet she'd built that somehow predicted swings better than the fancy bots. He wanted it. But she wasn't about to just hand it over. So she devised a plan. Phase 1 involved Doris. Which was tricky, because Doris hated her guts. You want me, Doris said, leaning across the plastic table at the bingo hall, to help you? After you humiliated me in front of the entire senior center Zumba class? You fell, Doris, Maggie said primly. I told you that wasn't my fault. You tripped me. You were in my lane. They glared at each other for a full 30 seconds before Maggie leaned in. Look, she said, lowering her voice, you want payback on that shark guy, don't you? He called you deadweight on the phone. Said you didn't matter. I heard it myself. Doris's eyes narrowed. He said that? Maggie nodded solemnly. Said you were just a pawn. Doris's jaw clenched. Fine, she said. What's the plan? Phase 2 was chaos. And Maggie thrived in chaos. She'd spent the next 2 days rallying her loyal online following, the Coin Coven, as they dubbed themselves, into action. She gave cryptic instructions, move coins, trigger bots, create noise in the market. By the time the shark's men arrived at her house, her little empire had turned into a swarm of unpredictable energy. Coins spiked. Coins tanked. Wallets moved. Everyone on crypto Twitter screamed. And in the middle of it all, Maggie sat on her porch, knitting a hideous lime green scarf and waiting. The confrontation wasn't cinematic. The shark didn't storm up the steps with a gun. He didn't threaten her in some growling, gravelly voice. He just walked up, perfectly dressed, perfectly calm, and said, "Mrs. McAllister. We need to talk." She looked up from her knitting. "Tea?" He blinked. "No. Suit yourself." Tyler hovered behind her, vibrating with fear. Doris sat in a lawn chair to the side, eating a popsicle like she was at the movies. "Maggie," the shark said, tone even, "you've made this more complicated than it needs to be. You give me the algorithm, you walk away with more money than you'll ever need. Simple." Maggie clicked her knitting needles together thoughtfully. "No." The shark's jaw twitched. "No? No," she said again. "Because if I hand it over, you'll just use it to squeeze everyone else dry. And my people, my followers, they're good folks. They don't deserve that." "This isn't about them," he said. "It's always about them," she snapped. And that was when Doris stood up, licked the last of her popsicle, and tossed the stick in the yard. "You heard the lady," Doris said. "No deal." The shark didn't expect Doris. He didn't expect that while he'd been busy underestimating a neighborhood of retirees, Maggie and Doris had quietly built an alliance. The next 48 hours were a whirlwind. The Coven executed Maggie's instructions like soldiers. They triggered a mass movement of funds designed to tank the shark's holdings just long enough for him to lose his leverage. Doris, meanwhile, leveraged her church connections. Don't ask how, but somehow the pastor ended up trending on Twitter with the hashtag #CryptoForChrist, and used the noise to keep the shark distracted. By the end of the week, the shark was gone. Not because Maggie had beaten him outright, but because she'd made it too expensive to fight her. He cut his losses and disappeared. And just like that, the SUVs vanished too. The neighborhood threw a block party that Saturday. Kids ran through sprinklers. The church ladies baked pies. Tyler manned the grill, glaring at anyone who mentioned crypto. And Maggie? She sat in her recliner, the lime green scarf draped around her shoulders, sipping sweet tea and scrolling through her app. She'd done it. Not for the money, though, sure, the money was nice. But because she'd built something that mattered. When she finally logged off for the night, she smiled to herself. Empire or not, she was still just Grandma Maggie. And tomorrow, she decided, she'd take a day off. Well, maybe half a day.